Hi, I'm Tiffany and this is Towering TBR. So today is going to be the first of a new series on my channel called Bingo Card Prompt. As some of you might be aware, I started a TBR game with different prompts starting in January. And for some of those, I have a specific book in mind. And those prompts are there to push me to read specific things. But I also have a lot of categories where I have a lot of options. And I thought I would share what my options are for that prompt. And that way you can give me your input on what I should pick up, what I maybe should skip over, things like that. So this first category for the prompt is owned nonfiction books. I have 4 shelves of nonfiction, so this was really hard to narrow down. I think there's about 12-ish that I plan to share and get your opinion on. And yeah, so then when I pull this prompt, I will kind of know what I want to go with. So I thought I'd share the 3 BookTube darlings, the ones I've seen on BookTube for a long time. And the first is Hidden Figures by Margot Lee Shetterly. And this is a nonfiction about 3 Black women mathematicians that helped launch like rockets into space. And it's their incredible story that has been overlooked for a long time. And I feel like I'm probably the last one to read this, but this is one of my options. There's also the choice of The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks by Rebecca Skloot. Henrietta Lacks, her DNA or her medical scrapings, something like that, is used in research, and I don't think she's ever been compensated for it. And so I've heard that this is a really compelling biography. And then the third that I see on BookTube quite a lot is Unbroken by Laura Hillenbrand. Laura Hillenbrand. And this is also a biography about a man who was shot down in World War II and was taken a prisoner of war. And it's like his whole entire journey that she tells. And yeah, I've heard great stuff. Also, this author is a spoonie, so I want to support her hard work by reading her book. So those are the 3 I think most people will be familiar with. I've definitely seen most of these on BookTube, but they aren't as prevalent. So I mentioned I'm a spoonie. I have chronic illnesses that disable me and cause chronic pain. And so I have basically some cyclet, or they're memoirs actually, but talk about disabilities and mental health. So I have The Collected Schizophrenias by Esme Wei-Jin Wang. She has schizophrenia, and in this book of essays, she talks a lot about how it's had an impact on her and her relationships. And I know there's a really devastating one in here about how she is choosing not to be a mother because she doesn't want to pass her schizophrenia on. And I think this will be kind of a hard-hitting book, but I'm really excited to read it. It came out, I want to say 4 or 5 years ago, and I haven't gotten to it yet, but I'm still very hyped for it. I also picked up I Live a Life Like Yours by Zhang Gru. This is a memoir about being sick from a man's perspective. And I think it's also translated. It's translated from the Norwegian. And so I have quite a few chronic ill memoirs, and this is one that I'm excited for. And so I want to read it. I mentioned it in a book haul recently, but I got A Still Life by Josie George not too long ago for Christmas. And this is her memoir of, I think she has ME, which is I'm not sure. But it is another memoir about being ill, and I really identify with these, so I'm glad I have lots of choices. 2 more in this category. I have Invisible, how young women with serious health issues navigate work, relationship, and the pressure to seem just fine. This is going to be somewhat her story, but it's also a broader look at women who have invisible disabilities. And so people don't necessarily know that they are sick or that they need accommodations. And I think that is going to be a really interesting, eye-opening essay. And then I also have It's Just Nerves by Kelly Davio. And this one, she took forever to get a proper diagnosis because they really disbelieved her. And, which is quite common, unfortunately. So, and this one's quite a short one. So if I really wanted to just squeeze something in, that would be a good choice. I'm a big fan of books talking about escaping religion or cults. And this one was kind of both. This is a woman's memoir, and she grew up in this kind of like commune in the middle of nowhere. And they had kind of a prepper family. And so this is sort of a mix between like leaving a cult and also what a difficult start she had. And I think that this will be a really interesting memoir. I read 10 Days in a Madhouse by Nellie Bly a couple of months ago. And this book, Damnation Island, is talking about Blackwell Island, which has a lunatic asylum. And it talks about like how it was in the 19th century. It's like a micro-history of a very specific part of the world. And I just think that sounds very entertaining. I have 438 Days. I love shipwreck and survival stories. And I wanted to read this in November when I did Nonfiction November, but I just didn't get to it. But this talks about a person who lasted longer than a year in the ocean. And yeah, I know that there are some really interesting videos on YouTube about this too, but I don't want to watch those until I read the book first. But yeah, definitely want to prioritize this at some point. And then lastly, the 2 types of nonfiction a type of nonfiction I really like is memoir, especially celebrity memoir. So I have Too Much Is Not Enough by Andrew Rannells, and he is an actor. The first thing I saw him on was Girls on HBO, and then he was also in the musical The Book of Mormon. And so I'm intrigued about him. I want to know what else he's done and read his memoir. And lastly, I have a biography called Get Happy. It's The Life of Judy Garland by Gerald Clark. It's kind of a chonker, but I just love reading celebrity memoirs. And I know that she had a really tumultuous life, and I think she will be an interesting person to learn about. So those are however many options for my own nonfiction. Here's where you get to be a part of it. Tell me what you're interested in me reading, or if you've read any of these before, let me know your thoughts on them. No spoilers, obviously. Let's have a chat down in the comments below. Bye.